Good afternoon, everyone. So I'll be covering two topics, tarsorrhaphy and EDTA chelation. So coming to the first topic, tarsorrhaphy, it's the surgical closure of the eyelids. It's a very powerful surgical tool for the protection of the cornea and ocular surface. So one should remember that it's a very simple procedure, but a very, very effective procedure for many situations. So what are the indications? Paralytic lag ophthalmos, like in seventh nerve palsy, cicatricial lag ophthalmos, post-surgical lag ophthalmos, exposure keratopathy, poor blink reflex, severe dry eyes, neurotrophic keratopathy, post-viral keratitis, and sterile corneal ulcers with thinning. So broadly divided into two types, temporary tarsorrhaphy or permanent tarsorrhaphy. Temporary involves approximation of the eyelids with sutures over bolsters. And the indications would be temporary causes, which are expected to get better with time. So post-surgical PEDs, temporary exposure keratopathies. And you can even keep this temporary tarsorrhaphy for up to 3 to 4 months until the time the suture remains tight enough. Then is the permanent tarsorrhaphy, which involves deepithelialization of a segment of the lid margin so that the lids get opposed permanently. The indications would be chronic exposure keratopathy and neurotrophic keratopathy, which are not expected to get better with time. And here the suture can be removed after 2 to 3 weeks. So these are the instrumentation which you need. It's very simple. You need a tooth forceps, you need a 11 number blade, a needle holder, a 40 or a 50 Prolene suture, and these bolsters. These bolsters are best made from the IV lines, and you cut it along the width and divide it into half, and you get these bolsters. Make it a point that the tips of the bolsters are not very sharp. So this is a surgical video of a permanent tarsorrhaphy. This was a case of Boston keratoprosthesis, which was leaking at the graft host junction. So you give a lid infiltration local anesthesia. Then with a 11 number blade at the gray line, you deepithelize a part of the lid margin, which you want to be opposed. So it can be lateral, medial, or paramedian tarsorrhaphy. So this is more of a paramedian tarsorrhaphy. So once that area is deepithelialized, you can excise it off with a Vanas or a corneal scissor. Similarly, you create a deepithelialized area over the corresponding area of the upper lid, again with the 11 number blade. So once that is done, you come to your suture. So here it's a 50 Prolene suture. You first pass it through the bolster, then about 3 millimeter from the lash line, and then it comes out through the deepithelialized area. Then it again goes into the deepithelialized area and comes out 3 millimeter away from the lash line. You again put it through another bolster and then take a U-turn and go back again from the upper lid to the lower lid in a similar manner. So it's a very easy procedure. One can do it without a microscope also. So we are used to doing it under microscope. So once you have passed both the suture, again pass it through the same bolsters, the first one, and then you can bring the two bolsters together and tie 3 to 4 knots to oppose the lid margins. So once that is done, you just apply some antibiotic ointment and the tarsorrhaphy is done. So these are a couple of examples. So this was a patient with HSV necrotizing keratitis. The keratitis healed, but there was a PED which was left and it was not healing for almost 2 weeks after healing of the infection. So we did a tarsorrhaphy and it healed beautifully within 2 weeks. This was a case of a severe bacterial keratitis. Here also the infection healed, but there was a large PED with a severe thinning in the cornea. So again, a tarsorrhaphy was done, and again it healed nicely in a 3 weeks period. So now you can plan your surgical intervention with a keratoplasty later. So coming to the other procedure, which is EDTA chelation, which is mainly done for band-shaped keratopathy. So BSK is characterized by deposition of gray-white matter calcium deposits in the Bowman's layer. It typically occurs in the interpalpebral area. It begins at the nasal and the temporal limbus and then progresses centrally. It causes irritation, photophobia, recurrent corneal erosions, or decreased vision and glare. The mechanism exactly is unknown, but it's the possibility related to the corneal exposure. which causes an increased pH in that area with altered tear osmolarity. As a result, increased calcium or phosphate deposits occur in that area. So one should always do a systemic workup in such cases where you don't find an ocular cause for it. Otherwise, if you have a definite ocular cause, then you need not evaluate the patient systemically. So these are the diseases associated with band keratopathy. It's a long list, but the common ones which we see are chronic uveitis, chronic renal failure, hyperparathyroid states. Intraocular silicone oil is a very common thing. JRA, phthisis bulbi, prolonged corneal edema, prolonged glaucoma, advanced absolute glaucoma, and sarcoidosis. So coming to the treatment options, several time observation is enough if the patient is not having any cosmetic or symptomatic complaints. Otherwise, you can just give lubricating artificial tear drops and ointments for symptomatic relief. You have to remove the calcium in advanced cases, and the indications would be pain, recurrent epithelial breakdowns, decreased vision, and cosmesis. The techniques of removal are also either just a mechanical debridement, but the calcium tends to come back very early. Then comes chemical chelation with EDTA, which we'll discuss, and PTK, which is also an option, but a pretty costly option. So how do you prepare the EDTA solution first? One option which is easily available is you have these Vacutainer tubes. They come in two concentration, either 5.4 milligram per tube or 7.2 milligram per tube. So accordingly, you can take 2 to 3 vials of these, rinse with 1 ml of BSS, and you serially rinse it in 2 or 3 vials, or maybe 4 if you have a 5.41 available. That gives you an approximately 2% K2 dipotassium EDTA solution. Other one is this EDTA solution, which is available as 0.02 normal solution powder. You mix it in 1 ml of BSS, giving around a 2% K2 EDTA solution. The process would be to instill topical anesthetic drops, debride the overlying epithelium with a 15 number blade. Then that solution of EDTA is applied either in a well, as you do in a PRK or CXL, or you can also saturate a Vexel sponge with it and apply it for 3 minutes. You wash it off with BSS and repeat the procedure if needed. And again, place a BCL. So this is, there are some surgical pictures. You debride the epithelium with a hockey stick knife, and then apply DTA solution for about 3 to 5 minutes, and then you can wash it off. So you can see the calcium has gone up from the cornea. So this is an example of a patient with a non-seeing eye. It was a post-VR surgery with silicone oil in situ, and a BSK had developed, and we did a EDTA chelation, and within a 2 weeks period, the cornea was quite clear. Always counsel the patient that the scar would still remain, so patient not expect that the cornea would become pristine clear. Also, you have to counsel if the silicone oil is inside, then the inciting factor is also there. So patient should be aware that this calcium can come back. Post-op medications would be antibiotic drops, which would include moxifloxacin 4 times a day for a week's time, fluorometholone drops 4 times a day, tapered over 3 to 4 weeks, and lubricating eye drops. BCL is removed once the epithelium heals. Thank you so much.